My dear friends, today we have a very special Star Wars video. The maker himself, George Lucas, just made his very first ever appearance at San Diego Comic-Con. Fans had waited in line since the wee hours of the morning, and then finally, he made it onto the stage and received an enormous standing ovation. Fans were basking in his presence, just happy to catch a glimpse of the living legend. Now, when I first covered the news that George was going to be in attendance, I added the massive caveat that he's not there to talk about Disney Star Wars. He's not there to rebuy the brand. He's not there to announce he's going to return and direct something. George was there to discuss his Museum of Narrative Art. And he provided some very cool updates for what it's going to hold when it opens in 2026. Now, this is very impressive. He revealed it's going to hold a life-size Naboo starfighter and General Grievous on his wheel bike from Revenge of the Sith. That's gonna look so badass, are you kidding me? That's amazing. It's also gonna house concept art for Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Not to mention original comic issues including some by Marvel and DC, and most impressively, there's going to be a mythology exhibit, putting on full display some of George's influences. This is going to include mythology from Egypt, Greece, and Rome. The entire museum is going to have 2 theatres, 33 galleries, an event venue, and a library. And while it would have been nice to hear George talk about Star Wars and some of his wider opinions, I think it's really great he's been spending his post-Star Wars capital on preserving art. This is a majestic and noble endeavour. Hats off to George, the creator of this incredible galaxy that we all love so much, even if we have our differences. Whether you're a prequel fan, original trilogy fan, this is the man that kicked everything off. And just seeing him walk out onto the stage to the Star Wars music, to the main John Williams theme, that was truly a spiritual experience. I got emotional just seeing all of the photos and videos that emerged from all of this. George Lucas, and indeed his work, means so much to so many of us. Thank you, George, for everything you've given us. And just for a second, guys, just bask in the amount of love in the room, the standing ovation that George received. Check it out.
Give it up for the one, the only, George Lucas!
Now, George provided us a gift of a quote. He spoke about the meaning of art, and for him, it was always personal. He hated studio oversight, he hated when everything became about money, and so he says this.
I think it's more about a connection, an emotional connection with the work, not how much it cost or what celebrity did it or whatever. It's more a personal thing. And I don't think there's anything that anybody else can tell you. That's art, that's not art. It doesn't work that way. If you have an emotional connection, then it's art. If you don't, then just move on to the next painting. And it's the idea that people can tell you what art is and talk about it. Other people's opinions don't mean much. The only thing that really means something is what you do and what you feel about it, and then if you see that other people react to it in a very emotional way, then you say, well, I did my job, that was good.
If you have an emotional connection to something, that's art. And he's so spot on, and critics of Disney Star Wars have said this is the difference between the approach George Lucas took and the approach of Disney execs. They don't put the story first, and that is where creativity suffers. The story, the narrative, that has to come first. George is such a huge asset to this world. He's one of the few people left who understands the importance of a deep connection with art, whether it's movies, TV shows, books. Art has always been a way of human beings expressing ourselves, passing down moral lessons, stories. It's a fundamental part of our species, and I love that George respects that and is using it as the ethos of his upcoming museum. At one point in the panel, George talks about the importance of not letting others influence your opinions, especially when it comes to your media takes. If you enjoy a film or a TV show, you don't need the approval of others. That's especially poignant in a time where Star Wars fans are very divided on how they feel about certain projects. And on this channel, my dear friends, I've always said, if you enjoy something that I don't, or vice versa, that's fine. You're welcome here. And you're still a Star Wars fan. Show your passion for it. If it means something to you personally, no one should take that away from you. Now, some Star Wars fans were pretty disappointed that George doesn't mention anything about the recent state of the franchise. But I'm just happy he's still healthy. He's still thriving at his age, doing very important work, and as The Hollywood Reporter said, quote, "If the 6,500 strong crowd was disappointed he didn't talk a whiff about Star Wars or Indiana Jones, it wasn't shown, as cries of 'I love you, George' and waving lightsabers punctuated the air several times. We love George Lucas. Honestly, he may not have spoken about Star Wars, but this was a very, very good day. But now, my dear friends, I want to bring in a special guest. My good friend Star Wars Santa, who's an original Trilogy fan. So what does George Lucas mean to you? And how do you react to what happened today in San Diego?
I loved what he said. And one of the things he talked about is art being an emotional connection. That's very, very true. And what I think that I've learned in the time that I've gotten to know you and other Star Wars content creators is we all connect to Star Wars very emotionally, and it becomes an emotional defense when we feel like somebody has said something against the thing that we love, whatever that might be, as a prequel fan or as an original trilogy fan, or we have new fans that are coming in as Mandalorian fans, or any number of projects. There's been a lot of vitriol, a bunch of stuff going between fans and not fans of the Acolyte, for example. To me, what I experienced during the prequel trilogy as an adult, most of my friends disliked the prequels. I had an initial negative reaction to some of the prequels, and then it just got worse. And it's taken a long time for folks like you and other folks who are big prequel fans, as you mentioned, big renaissance on all fronts. There's a lot of passion and love for the prequels now. In the sequels, having gone through that and having seen it, I expect that the kids, the 10, 20 years from now, it will begin to have more of a resurgence as well. In fact, you're already seeing the front end of that. I do think that will be a natural progression. I know there's some debate about it, but we get back to what George Lucas said about the emotional connection we have to art. And that emotional connection I had as a 10-year-old, and you had as you were watching them with your parents when you were young. And now these kids who are watching it with their parents or grandparents, there's going to be a nostalgia moment that connects them emotionally to these films and to this era that they're going to hold on to passionately because it means something to them. It's going to have a big mile marker in their lives, just as they did for you and they did for me. So, and it doesn't matter whatever I think of it. I agree with George Lucas when he says it really doesn't matter what somebody else thinks of it. If you like it and it has an emotional connection to you, it marks a significant portion of your life, that should be all that matters.
It's important to be authentic, to allow music or movies or shows to move you, and to speak to you personally. If you resonate with the character of Luke in The Last Jedi, then that's your thing. I don't know if you remember the video where I interviewed Sam Witwer, but he said the same thing. He was speaking about the Acolyte, and he said, if you like the Acolyte, don't let anyone tell you you're less of a Star Wars fan. What resonates with you might not resonate with someone else, but it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Same thing with The Phantom Menace. I'm a prequel fan. I love The Phantom Menace, but even as recently as 5 or 6 years ago, fans were still bashing it. It took the sequel trilogy for fans to say they loved the prequels, because maybe by comparison they weren't as bad, but now that we've just gone past the 20th anniversary of The Phantom Menace, and to see all the love for that movie, I feel vindicated and proud as a prequel fan, and it should be completely okay and accepted to express that love. So I hope George knows just how much we love his work, not just the original trilogy but the prequel trilogy as well.